Hello, I'm Dr. Art Ulene. Welcome to our 4 Weeks to Fitness program. This video contains all of the information you'll need to implement our program and to get started on the road to real fitness. The video contains all of the reports from our series on today. Each day's report deals with a specific issue that affects your fitness and contains some specific assignments for you to follow. For best results, you should watch one report each day, then stop the tape and do the assignments for that day, returning to the tape the next day for the next issue and the next assignments. The key to success is to follow the plan as closely as you can and to be patient with yourself. You do those two things and your fitness level should improve greatly. Now let's get started.
If your New Year's resolution has to do with fitness, we're kicking off a new series that is right up your alley. Our Dr. Art Ulene has a plan designed to get you measurably more fit in just 4 weeks. Art, good morning, Happy New Year.
Good morning and Happy New Year to you. And this year, by fitness, we're talking about a lot more than just weight loss. We promised the volunteers who tested our program that we'd take an inch off their waist, a minute off their mile, 10 points off their blood pressure, 10% off their cholesterol level, and add fun to their life. Now let's show you how they did on our program. To prove this program can work for anyone, any age, living in any situation, we recruited our volunteers right here in the totally frantic, stressed, and pressured heart of New York City. Residents here have a reputation for being tense and in a hurry. If New Yorkers could fit the program into their fast-paced lives, anybody could do it. So we handed out flyers at the Broadway local subway stop on the Upper West Side during rush hour. It's a busy part of town, filled with singles, couples, families, rushing through a life that seems to never have enough hours in the day. We sought out a diverse group, each of whom wanted to meet one or more of our promised goals in just 4 weeks. November 9th, we held our first meeting at the West Side YMCA.
Really easy to tolerate changes, comfortable changes, changes you can live with for the rest of your life, if maintained over time, can have a dramatic difference on your overall fitness level.
Our volunteers ranged from a 73-year-old retiree to an investment banker to a 21-year-old grad student. But they all shared the common goal of wanting to be in better shape. First thing we did was get some baseline numbers: blood pressure, weight, and time covering a measured mile.
I heard some people who said, well, they would have difficulty doing this regularly because of work. And I would like to know, is there anyone in this room whose work is so important you're willing to die early for it? This is about priorities. You need to decide what is important in your life.
My cholesterol level has been rising, and so I'm anxious to find out more about it, whether it's diet or exercise.
My fitness goals are to increase my endurance and my stamina and to generally feel better.
Now that I am retired, my object is not to go downhill.
My main reason in joining this program was to learn more about the philosophy of living, about many other aspects beside the physical side, about the spirituality, the diet, the good thinking.
I want to be able to think of myself as somebody who put herself through college and law school, passed the Texas bar and had 30 jury trials and moved to New York and took the New York bar. But instead, I think of myself as somebody who, won't go to a party because my dresses are too tight. And I want to be in control of it.
I would love to take a minute off my mile and an inch off my waist. On the lighter side, I would just want to look better naked.
Our volunteers included a police officer, an investment banker, 2 students, newlyweds, and a school principal, several retirees, and a lawyer. They exercised, they cut back to 10% fat, ate more fruits and vegetables, and worked on their physical and emotional fitness. Four weeks later, we met again. You could see the difference in their measured miles. Take a look at Ira Ewan, before and after. Renee Rosenfeld, before and 4 weeks later. Of the 17 volunteers who did the 4-week program, 8 took 1 or more minutes off their mile. 10 lost weight. Renee lost so many pounds she didn't have enough fingers to count them on. 9 dropped their blood pressure 10 or more points. 10 trimmed an inch or more off their waist. And Mark Troy got his cholesterol down 53 points.
I was really surprised in 3 or 4 weeks that you could have this kind of an impact on some of the things I was trying to improve. My cholesterol went way down and blood pressure is down.
I can't really express how happy and how excited I am about what has happened the last 4 weeks. And of course, I've lost about 11 pounds, and I've taken about 2 inches off my waist, and I can't believe 3 minutes off of my mile.
You can get the same results if you join us next Monday and follow the simple assignments I'll give you every day.
Okay,
Right?
Art, we look forward to it.
If you've resolved to get into shape during 1997, and who hasn't, help has just arrived. Our special series, 4 Weeks to Fitness, is guaranteed to make you more fit in just 4 weeks. Our Dr. Ulene is here to get us started. Art, good morning.
Good morning, Katie.
How does this series differ from the other ones you've done in the past?
Very, very greatly. Our past programs have focused specifically on weight loss. This year we're talking total fitness. Physical fitness, which includes weight loss if you need it, nutritional fitness, and mental and emotional fitness. Now I'd like you to meet the volunteers who tested our program for you. We invited people living on New York's Upper West Side to test our fitness program by handing out brochures like this one at a local subway station. It's a bustling neighborhood bordered on the west by Central Park. And we asked the West Side YMCA to help us by making their fitness trainers available to our volunteers and giving them access to the Y's classes and equipment.
See, that wasn't so bad.
No, that wasn't so bad.
Today purchased a 1-month membership at the Y for Rosita and Kiku and the rest of our volunteers. Our first meeting was held at the Y November 9th. First, we got baseline weights. That's a good way to start, huh? We measured blood pressures, and then it was off to Central Park for the timed mile. The volunteers were instructed to walk or run a mile as fast as they could without becoming breathless. This was easy for the volunteers who were already runners, but for some, this was a whole new concept.
I can talk while I walk, so that's
That's a good test.
that's my test.
That's a very good measure of whether you're walking too fast or not. 6 of our volunteers walked the whole mile slowly. Then we had a bite to eat and talked about setting lifetime priorities. I have never heard of a human being who on his or her deathbed said, "I wish I had spent more time at the office." You need to decide what is important in your life. 53-year-old bank comptroller Mark Troy wanted to get his cholesterol and blood pressure down. Investment banker Rosita Rankalita worried about the hidden effects of her sedentary, high-stress lifestyle. And Elaine Kirsch wanted to learn how she could get daily exercise and a good night's sleep while raising her daughter. So they cut their fat consumption and worked out and learned how to set priorities and achieve balance in life. In just 4 weeks, their increased fitness was obvious.
I've lost about 11 pounds, and I've taken about 2 inches off my waist, and I can't believe 3 minutes off of my mile.
And I actually took a minute and a second off my mile, which I felt was pretty tremendous.
My cholesterol went way down and blood pressure is down.
Of the 17 volunteers who completed the 4-week program, 10 lost weight. Renee lost so many pounds she didn't have enough fingers to count them on. 9 dropped their blood pressure 10 or more points. 10 trimmed an inch or more off their waist. 8 took 1 or more minutes off their mile. My message is simple. No matter what your fitness level, you can improve it greatly and you can have fun doing it. You do our assignments every day and I promise you'll see a significant difference in your overall fitness level at the end of the month. And today, Katie, we're going to focus on physical fitness.
All right, Art, I'm going to try to get a new attitude, too. What is the first step?
Well, the first step is I'm going to be asking people to walk 1 mile, walk, jog, run at least 1 mile every day as fast as they can without becoming breathless. And then every day during the month, I'm going to ask them to take just 2 seconds off their time. Now, I need to point out, if you're over 40, overweight, if you smoke, or you have a medical problem, you ought to talk to your doctor first before dramatically increasing your fitness level. But these are gradual changes.
But can walking really build aerobic fitness?
No question about it. If you walk fast enough to increase your heart rate, but again without becoming breathless. It's important to point out that it doesn't just increase your fitness. It'll reduce your risk of high blood pressure, of heart disease, obesity, diabetes, and cancer. There's no more powerful medicine than exercise.
All right, what are today's assignments?
Well, our first assignment is to time how long it takes you to walk or run 1 mile comfortably, again, without becoming short of breath. I also want you to count the total number of fat grams you consume today. Don't forget 9 calories of fat is 1 gram, and eat 7 half-cup servings of fruits or vegetables. You do that, and you are well on your way to becoming more fit in just 4 weeks.
And tomorrow's topic is?
We're going to talk about fat, one of my favorite subjects.
Something near and dear to my heart. All right, Art, thanks very much.
On day 2 of our special series, 4 Weeks to Fitness, our topic is cutting back on fat. Our own Dr. Art Ulene is here now to show us how to do it. Art, good morning.
Good morning, Matt. I'm going to give them some reasons why to do it, too. Some fat consumption is essential for good health, but most Americans eat way too much fat. This isn't just a cosmetic issue. The excess fat can raise your blood cholesterol level and increase your risk of heart attack, stroke, and diabetes. A diet high in fat, especially animal fat, can also increase your risk of some cancers. In my opinion, those are enough reasons to cut your intake of fat and cut it way back.
I am your perfect audience for this, Art, because I do have too much fat in my diet. How much fun out of my life are you going to take, or how much fat out of my life are you going to take?
Well, let's start with a typical American diet. The typical American diet is sitting right here in front of you. This is 2,000 calories, 34% fat. Quick, high-fat breakfast, fast food lunch, meat and potatoes, and a high-fat dessert. They call this low-fat milk. It's actually got a lot of fat in it. Usually I ask people to cut to 20% fat. This time, for 4 weeks, I'm asking folks to really take the plunge and go to a 10% fat diet for 4 weeks. Here's what that looks like, okay? Some of the differences are obvious. We've got less oil, less meat, no obvious butter and things. But I want to point out another very important difference. Look at the tremendous volume of beautiful, delicious food here compared to what we've got down here. On a 10% diet, you get to eat much, much more, and it's much more nutritious.
All right, but the problem is fat tastes good.
You bet.
So how hard is it going to be for someone to actually take the plunge and go from this to that?
I won't kid about it. It tastes good, it feels good in your mouth, and it's difficult to give up initially, but let me give you a real good reason why to give it up. If you switch from a 34% fat diet to 10% fat, and you still eat 2,000 calories a day, this is how much fat you will spare your body in a year. And trust me, in 4 weeks, you'll feel a huge difference.
No, you're not saying that this is actually going to be on my waistline. This could be in my bloodstream. This could be in a lot of different areas.
Precisely, and that's why it has a dramatic health effect.
All right, so people now say, okay, I'm going to go along with you, Art.
Right.
We're going to cut down 24%. We're going to go from 34% down to 10% of our fat each day. How do you determine how much fat is actually in your diet?
2 ways to do it. One is you could count calories. Use food labels and actually count your total calories for the day, the calories for fat. Here's a nifty one where 90 calories, this food is 10%. I find counting calories and fat calories too tedious. So I use the law of averages, and basically what you should do is eat as much as you can from foods that are non-fat or very low in fat. Stay away from foods that are over 20% fat. The law of averages will take care of it. You'll come out at 10%.
Which is also easier, the law of averages, because these things are very confusing. You mentioned this 2% milk over here a second ago. That doesn't mean there's 2% fat in there.
No, they do 2% by weight. They call this low-fat milk, but actually 35% of the calories come from fat here. There are about 40-some calories in every glass. So you want to switch to skim milk. You got to be aware. When they say 95% fat-free, they're doing it by weight. It will have a lot of fat in it.
We've talked about this before. I like red meat, and I don't want to give it up. I'll cut it down a little bit. Do I have to cut it out completely?
No, absolutely not. Pick leaner cuts and smaller portions. If you're eating poultry, take the skin off. Switch to white meat instead of dark. You'll save a tremendous amount of fat.
How does this diet affect vegetarians?
Well, vegetarians have to be careful because the recipes often include a lot of oils, a lot of fats, and because they often substitute cheese for meat, so they get a lot of fat that way. So vegetarian diet does not equate to a low-fat diet unless you're careful.
And that's a misconception, because a lot of people think they're eating very healthy. All right, what are the assignments for people today?
Well, we're going to start with a nutritional assignment. Your nutritional assignments are to cut fat to 10% of your daily calories and to eat 7 half-cup servings of fruit and vegetables. Your physical assignment is to cut 2 seconds off your time for covering that measured mile, and don't forget to cover the mile.
So yesterday we figured out how long it takes us to run or walk that mile. Today, trim it by 2 seconds.
Do it 2 seconds.
What are you talking about tomorrow?
Managing stress. We're going to show people how to cope in this stressful world.
And if I have to cut 24% of fat out of my diet, I'm going to need to manage stress. Dr. Art Ulene, thanks very much. Appreciate it. As we continue our 4 Weeks to Fitness program, today's subject is controlling stress, something we could all use. And according to our own Dr. Art Ulene, the secret to success is building mental fitness. And today he's going to show us how to do that. Art, good morning.
Good morning, Matt. This is a critical fitness issue, and that's because poorly managed stress can cause a long list of medical symptoms. Those symptoms vary greatly from one person to the next because everyone has a particular weak spot in the body that malfunctions when their stress gets too great. You shouldn't ignore those symptoms just because you believe they're caused by stress, because if you do, then your risk of developing a serious medical disorder increases significantly.
But that's important to say because it's easy to blame a lot of things on stress, but how do I know it's stress-related symptom and not a serious medical condition?
Well, I think you start with a medical examination to rule out the possibility of any underlying illness. If the medical examination is negative, then I recommend that people keep a stress diary in which you record every time you're having symptoms, every time you're feeling distressed, where you were, what you were thinking, what was going on. That helps you to make the connection between the symptoms and what's going on in your life, and that's the first step toward breaking it.
If I were to keep a stress diary, though, Art, it would be a thick, thick book. Isn't it impossible to live life in the 1990s without stress?
Certainly my life, you're right, but that doesn't mean you have to let stress make you sick. People can be taught how to manage stress, how to eliminate certain stresses, and how to control the ill effects. Some of the busiest, most stressed people I know are some of the calmest and most relaxed.
A lot of what you're going to say this morning sounds like common sense, but you have a 4-step program on managing stress. Let's take people through it.
Okay, the first step is to eliminate as many simple sources of stress as you can. Turn off the radio and stop the noise. Clear up clutter at home by throwing things out that you never use anyway. Give up stressful tasks you volunteered for when you had extra time, and start setting limits on the stress that you let other people dump on you. Second step, avoid predictably stressful situations whenever you can. Change your commute schedule to avoid traffic jams, shop late at night to avoid long lines, and stop buying things. Excess spending is a major cause of stress for many people. Now, if you can't eliminate the source of your stress, then remove yourself, even if just briefly. You don't have to quit your job or divorce your spouse, but look for ways to find relief. Take a walk, read a book, or work on a hobby. And finally, it's important that you recognize and accept what cannot be changed. Refusing to accept an unchangeable situation means you are doomed to experience continued stress from it.
Let's say, though, I'm a basket case, and I try all those steps. I eliminate what I can. I still feel the stress, though, and it's making me feel bad. What can I do then?
Okay, you don't have to suffer those ill effects. There are 2 things you can do. Use physical and mental techniques. Physical exercise is one of the best because it literally releases tension from your muscles. When you're stressed, you get tension. You release that tension, and second, it causes the brain to release endorphins, chemicals that literally change your mood. The second step is to learn and practice regularly deep relaxation techniques. You can actually condition your body to resist stress.
So let's give some people some things to work on. What are our assignments today?
Well, our first assignment is to spend 10 minutes doing a deep relaxation exercise. And take a look at your life. Try to eliminate at least one stress from your schedule. Again, today I want you to take 2 more seconds off your mile, eat 7 servings of fruits and vegetables, and cut the fat in your diet to 10%. You do those things and we'll have you feeling and looking more fit in just 4 weeks.
If I take 2 more seconds off my mile today, I'm going to be down under an hour pretty soon. What's the assignment for tomorrow? What's the subject tomorrow?
Tomorrow we're going to be talking nutrition, practical nutrition.
And this morning's 4 Weeks to Fitness subject is nutrition, specifically vitamins and minerals. Dr. Ulene is here with all the details. Hi, Art. Good morning.
Good morning, Katie. Let's start with what people are eating. On Tuesday, I showed you 2 diets, a typical American diet containing 34% fat, and our recommended diet, which gets only 10% of its calories from fat. Big difference in volume and fat, but fat content isn't the only difference between these food plans. Look how the high-fat diet diet falls short of meeting recommended daily amounts of several essential vitamins and minerals. This diet provides only 53% of the RDA for vitamin D, only 27% of the RDA for E, only 60% of the zinc requirement, 72% of folic acid, and it does not meet the calcium needs of women after menopause. The 10% diet is much better, but still falls short on a few important nutrients, though not nearly as short as the other diet. Now you know why I put so much emphasis on getting high-fat foods out of your diet and replacing them with more nutritious foods. It's not just the fat I'm concerned about, Katie.
At the same time, Art, as you said, the low-fat diet rather falls short when it comes to some essential nutrients as well. So how do you deal with that?
Well, we tried very hard to put it all in there, and it's very difficult to do it. My answer will surprise you. I now recommend vitamin and mineral supplements for all adults.
Now that's a complete about-face for you, isn't it?
Boy, that's 180 degrees for me. But I have to tell you, I need to warn people, having said that, a poor diet plus vitamin and mineral supplements is still a poor diet. There are many important nutrients that you can only get in foods, so foods should be your primary source of nutrition.
And variety is the key. Let's talk about this really appetizing repast you've laid out here.
Well, I put this here for a reason. If there's one point to be made, it's that no single food can do it for you. There's a carrot. That single carrot meets 100% of your vitamin A requirements for the day, but it's got no B12, no iron. 5 ounces of spinach in this bowl. It's a wonderful food. 100% of your A and folic acid, 2/3 of your vitamin C requirement, 25% of your iron. It's very low in vitamin B6, B12. Here's 3 glasses of either milk or fortified orange juice, calcium fortified. That'll meet your daily requirement for C, but it's got almost no iron or niacin. Black beans, a wonderful food. 100% of your daily requirement for folic acid, 24% for iron. Lots of fiber, but it's very low in vitamin C and B12. There are some good foods, and I'm going to point out a couple of breakfast cereals that contain 100% of your requirements for many vitamins and minerals. But if you really want to have a good diet, you've got to put together variety.
But sometimes even variety isn't enough. So what kind of supplements do you recommend, and in what doses?
I recommend just a regular multivitamin, multimineral supplement that meets 100% of the RDAs for adults, and then I boost that. I boost vitamin C to between 250 and 500 milligrams, vitamin E to about 100 to 200 a day, selenium to between 100 and 200.
Now these are higher than the government's recommended daily doses.
Yes, the RDAs are out of date. They're absolutely out of date. They're working on them now. There'll be new RDAs for many nutrients, and I think the research shows that for selected nutrients, it does pay to be at these higher doses, and that's for E, C, and selenium.
But don't you have to worry about ODing on vitamins, because you hear about that as well?
You can do it. You can poison yourself on A, on B6. You can poison yourself on iron and selenium. But at the doses I'm talking about, there are no toxic side effects.
Okay, natural or synthetic?
I don't think it makes a difference at all. I do have a few hints, though. I think that if you're going to buy vitamins, you ought to look on the label, and you ought to find a vitamin that meets USP standards. Those are drug quality standards. It ought to dissolve in 30 to 45 minutes, and if it doesn't say so on the label, it probably doesn't. Don't buy old vitamins. If it's got an expiration date less than 6 months away, don't do it. And store them in a cool, dry place and out of sunlight. That really destroys the potency of vitamins.
When should you take them during the day, and should you take them on an empty or full stomach?
You should take them with food. I don't think it matters what time of day you take them.
All right. Tomorrow's assignments are?
Well, we're going to start by assessing your diet. First assignment, assess your diet, see what vitamins and minerals you're missing and whether eating differently would help, and then supplement if necessary. Eat 7 servings of fruits and vegetables. Cut your fat to 10%. Take another 2 seconds off that mile today and spend 10 minutes doing a deep relaxation exercise. If you really did all of those things today, I promise you would feel better tomorrow.
Promise?
I promise.
All right, those are today's assignments, not tomorrow's assignments. You've got to do those today, everybody. What's tomorrow's subject?
We're going to talk about the medicinal power of belief. It's important.
Okay. Art Ulene, thanks so much, Art. As we wrap up the first week of our special fitness series, you may be wondering, what do I have to do next? Well, you may be surprised by Dr. Art Ulene's answer to that question. Art, good morning.
Good morning, Katie. I will ask them to believe. And I'm not kidding. I want you to believe that you can change and become fit. No matter how old you are, how out of shape you are, or how set in your ways, I'm asking you to believe that you can change. I know some of you simply don't think you can change enough to make a difference, and that belief keeps you from trying and from succeeding. But I also know you can do it if you'll just believe in yourself enough to try. So my message today is very simple. If you are one of those who are already doing our assignments, I want you to believe that it really will make a big difference in your life and stick with the program for the entire 28 days. I promise we won't disappoint you. Now, if you're not doing the fitness assignments because you don't believe you can or you don't believe it will make a difference, I want you to change that belief for just the next 4 weeks and do the assignments with us. I promise we won't disappoint you either. Katie?
I feel like I'm talking with Reverend Art Ulene. Believe, everybody, believe. I mean, as a man of medicine, you're putting a big emphasis on keeping the faith, aren't you?
Katie, belief is one of the most powerful medicines we have. Belief is what made witch doctors work. Belief is what makes the placebo effect work. Belief is what makes a third of our medicine work. So if people will just believe they can change, the studies show that they will do better than those people who don't believe in themselves.
What if you have tried to change your behavior before and have failed?
I don't use the word failure. Those were practice sessions. And what you need to do is learn from them. Go back and figure out what you did wrong the last time and change what you do this time. But most important of all, believe in yourself, believe in your potential, and that will give you the power you need to make it this time.
Some people are fairly mentally paralyzed, if you will, and they may have such a huge goal that they can't achieve it, particularly when there are only 3 weeks left in this program. What would you say to those people who seem to be very bogged down by their mental state?
I say change your goals. We have people out there who wanted to lose 100 pounds. You can't lose 100 pounds in 3 weeks. But I will tell the folks at home, if you would just make a new goal, losing 2 pounds a week, you'll lose the whole 100 pounds by next Thanksgiving. We've had many viewers write to us now who've lost 100 pounds as a result of the weight loss program we did last year. They never believed they could do it, and they, quotes, failed before, but they believed this time.
So no matter how much weight you have to lose, 2 pounds a week is realistic?
Absolutely, absolutely. As long as you commit yourself to stay with short, realistic goals and believe you can accomplish. All you have to do is believe you can lose the next ounce. Do it 1 ounce at a time.
Now, a lot of people, as you well know, including yourself, are extremely busy. Too busy, they think, to exercise and count fat grams and do all the things that you're requiring.
I don't buy that. This is an issue of priorities. And you do what is important for you. The busiest people I know find time to do exercise, to manage their stress well, and they do it because it makes them more productive. It gives them more time and more energy. As for the details, I say don't sweat the details. If you can't measure a mile, don't measure. Just walk for 20, 30 minutes. You don't want to count fat grams, then just feed yourself well. This is about taking good care of yourself, and it does not add work to your day. It adds pleasure to your day. It adds energy and productivity.
A little tough love this morning. What are today's assignments?
Well, the first assignment, I'm not kidding, this one's serious. I want you to go around and make a few simple signs that say, I can do this. And I want you to post them in conspicuous places where you'll see them often. Whenever you see the sign, I want you to repeat that message out loud. I can do this. Then I want you to do every assignment I give you during the next 3 weeks, starting with these. Spend 10 minutes doing a relaxation exercise today. Take another 2 seconds off your mile today. You got to walk that mile. And take 2 more seconds off each weekend day. Continue to eat lots of fruits and vegetables and cut the fat in your diet to 10%. You do all that, and believe me, you're well on your way to your fitness goals.
Now, I had 3 birthdays this week, Carrie's, Jay's, and my birthday. That was a lot of birthday cake. I can get started next week?
You can get started today, believe me.
I can do this. All right. Art, you have a good weekend. I think you need to take a few days off. I'm kidding. Thanks, Art.
As we begin week 2 of our special series, 4 Weeks to Fitness, we're talking about why strong muscles are important for everyone, not just gym rats. Our own Dr. Art Ulene is here to explain why and what you can do about that. Art, good morning.
Good morning, Matt. Let's start with the why. Strong muscles make it easier for you to do a day's work without getting tired. And strength training reduces your risk of osteoporosis and fractures. It also reduces your risk of obesity because muscles burn more calories pound for pound than any other tissue in your body. Contrary to popular belief, you're never too old to start a muscle building program, as one of the volunteers who tested our program proves. Her name is Kiku Tomita.
thirsty. 100 is more like it.
She's an energetic, cheerful 73-year-old who's enjoying her retirement years living in New York City.
My goal is to take an inch or so off my waistline and reduce the fat in my thighs a little bit, increase my stamina a bit.
Back in November, Kiku was strolling her mile. Not too bad for 73 years of age, and a great way to warm up your muscles before a strength training workout. Kiku got a primer on the Westside Wise strength training equipment from trainer Casey Coulthard.
See, that wasn't so bad.
No, that wasn't so bad.
Warm up, stretch a little bit, and exercise, especially the body part you're going to be doing. So we're going to do legs and upper body.
A good plan is to start with the large muscles in your lower body and work your way up.
Every time the weight goes up, you breathe out. That goes for all the machines in this gym, okay? Everything, the weight goes up, you breathe out.
If you go to a gym for your strength training sessions, start by asking for help. You can hurt yourself if you don't use the equipment correctly, and gym staffers are there to show you proper techniques.
Boy, that's, what is that, 80 pounds?
Well, that's just for me. You're not going to do that.
Absolutely.
You're going to do
I'd be
15.
breaking my legs if I would try to lift 80 pounds.
The key to both success and safety is to start with smaller weights and increase gradually.
It's not so easy.
That's a good start. See, now you can do, it's hard now. 2 weeks from now or a month from now, you'll be doing like 20 of these. Just all right.
Kiku has graduated to 10-pound weights on the cruncher, which means she's making good progress building abdominal strength. She's taken a 1/4 inch off her waist and 1.5 minutes off her mile already. Her personal advice to you is be consistent. She does weights 3 times a week and walks daily, and you should too.
You say you're never too old to start with weights. She's 73.
Yes, Matt, the studies show that people in their 80s and 90s can dramatically increase their strength with weight training. And by the way, it's critical at that age when it's even difficult for some people to get out of a chair and when stronger legs can mean the difference between a stumble or a fracture.
There are a lot of people who may be watching, Art, who can't afford the $80 a month or the $50 a month to join a gym. What can they do at home?
Well, you can start out at home with simple resistance, and resistance comes in a lot of different packages. Free weights like these, elastic, wrist weights. You can get a tremendous amount of resistance in these, but I also want to point out that you can use household objects. Plastic bottles, never glass, filled with sand or water. Very simple exercises, and you've got to remember that you want to exercise both sides of each limb.
We should also remember that if you do get injured at home, you have somebody around you will always be helpful. Do you have other hints, though, for people who are doing this, whether at home or at the gym?
Yes, when you're starting the program, always warm up for a few minutes with some mild aerobic activity, then stretch the muscles you plan to work. That protects you against injuries. Start with very light weights and increase very gradually. Do short sets using slow movements. Don't hold your breath. You should exhale during the exertion phase and give your muscles 1 day of rest between workouts.
For people who've never done it before, is the rule of thumb start with a trainer or someone to show you how to do it properly so you don't injure yourself?
It's a wonderful idea. Visit your local Y, a local gym. There are also some excellent videos and books, but I like the idea of a first visit to the gym.
And as we enter week 2 of 4 weeks to fitness, what are your assignments today?
Well, we're going to start with some physical activity, of course. Climb 1 flight of stairs today, do 1 upper body exercise for strength training, and take another 2 seconds off your mile. Eat 7 servings of fruits and vegetables, cut the fat, and spend 10 minutes in deep relaxation. You do that, I promise you'll feel better tomorrow.
Tomorrow's subject?
Controlling cholesterol.
Good for all of us. All right, Art, thank you very much. This morning on 4 Weeks to Fitness, controlling your cholesterol. Dr. Art Ulene has advice on how to get those levels down, most importantly, the bad levels. Art, good morning.
Good morning, Matt. This is a very important fitness issue for a lot of people in our audience. Some cholesterol is essential for good health. Your body uses it to build cell walls and to manufacture hormones. But when the cholesterol level in your blood gets too high, it starts to deposit in the walls of your arteries, choking off the flow of blood and oxygen, and that increases your risk of heart attack and stroke. But there are things you can do to lower that risk. For most people, improving your blood cholesterol level is simple. Increase your physical activity and cut dietary cholesterol and fat, especially saturated fat, and lose any excess weight. Our volunteers did just that. For example, banker Mark Troy and his wife Ulene walked their miles and seriously cut the fat from their diet with great results.
I was really surprised in 3 or 4 weeks that you could have this kind of an impact on some of the things I was trying to improve. My cholesterol went way down and blood pressure is down.
An added benefit for Mark and Elaine is that daughter Jeannie will grow up healthier too, and without a taste for high-fat foods.
Right.
Mark's 53-point drop equals a 23% decrease in his cholesterol level, which lowers his risk of heart attack by nearly 50%. And he did it with lifestyle changes alone. 7 of the 17 volunteers who finished our fitness program lowered their cholesterol levels. The average drop was 18% in 4 weeks.
23% drop for Mark. That sounds enormous, in my opinion. What's the average, though, that people can expect to lower their cholesterol level if they follow a program?
It's very variable. For people who were born with a hereditary problem and high cholesterol levels, because of that, they may not be able to get it down at all with, except with drugs. People with very low cholesterol levels may not be able to budget. Most of us are in the middle, and it'll range somewhere between 10 and 30% drop.
You say we're in the middle. The last time I had it checked, Art, was almost 2 years ago. I'm 39 years old. It was about 150. How do I know if that's too high or where I fit in the spectrum?
Well, 150 is a very low cholesterol. It's a good, healthy cholesterol level, but you also have to know your level of HDL, the so-called good cholesterol. Let me show you about risk and cholesterol.
Okay.
We've got a chart which shows that. As your cholesterol level goes up, your risk begins to go up. So a cholesterol level of 200, you have a 25% higher risk than if it were 150. When your cholesterol level reaches 300, you have 4 times the risk of a heart attack as someone whose cholesterol level is 200.
If I'm going to try and get my cholesterol level into this area here and lower the risk of heart attack, let's talk about the foods I need to get rid of and the foods I need to eat more of.
I'll give you some very simple rules. The less dietary cholesterol and fat you eat, if your cholesterol level is high, the better. The less animal fat you eat, the better, because animal fat is highly saturated and the body uses that to make more cholesterol, and because where you find animal fat, you find cholesterol. And finally, the less solid fat you eat. So if you're going to eat fat at all, you want liquid fat, ideally a monounsaturated fat like olive oil.
That's the best thing on the table.
Absolutely. And for every 1% you lower your cholesterol level, if you have a high cholesterol level, you reduce your risk of heart attack by 2%.
Let's talk about the assignments for today.
Okay, obviously we're going to start with cutting cholesterol. Cut your cholesterol consumption if you have a high cholesterol to 300 milligrams per day. Keep your overall fat to 10% of your calories and eat 7 servings of fruits and vegetables. Take 2 more seconds off your mile, climb 1 flight of stairs and do your strength training. And finally spend 10 minutes in deep relaxation. You do all of that, and you are on your way to better fitness, I promise it.
The series continues tomorrow. What's the subject?
Well, tomorrow we're going to be talking about salt, and I've got some real surprises for you.
And I am a perfect culprit for that because I eat a lot of salt. Art, thanks very much. Our special month-long fitness series, 4 Weeks to Fitness, today looks at the salt in your diet. And Dr. Art Ulene says the source of some of that salt may surprise you. Art, good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning, Matt. Thank you. Salt is a simple substance made up of sodium and chloride, and your body needs both sodium and chloride to maintain good health. Let's show you on the table. Your body needs about 500 milligrams of sodium a day for health, and it takes about that much salt, 1/3 of a teaspoon, to do that. But Americans eat 8 times that amount, about 2 1/3 teaspoons per day of salt. Now, for most of us, most healthy people, the kidney just gets rid of the extra salt, no problem. But about 30% of us are what we call salt sensitive. The kidneys can't eliminate the salt well, and that contributes to the risk of high blood pressure, which is why all the federal health experts recommend that we limit our sodium to no more than 2,400 milligrams a day. That's how much that would be. Now, it doesn't look like a lot of difference between these two stacks, but if you add up the difference over the course of a year, we're talking about nearly 1.5 pounds of extra salt, and that's a serious health problem.
This is just the difference between these two
That's
diets.
over the course of a year.
But even this, if this is what the average American consumes on a daily basis, that seems too much there. I mean, I don't know a lot of people who put that much salt on food.
Because the problem is not just the salt you put on food, but the hidden salt. I've got something to show you down here. Now, it's not surprising that some foods are very salty, but Look how much salt is in 5 olives. A half a teaspoon of salt is hidden in 5 olives. A half a teaspoon in 4 pickle spears. Soy sauce, 1 tablespoon portion of soy sauce contains an entire teaspoon full of salt. Now, the good news is there are some choices. Here are 2 barbecue sauces. You expect salt in barbecue sauce. Here's one that contains 1/3 of a teaspoon. This one contains only 1/10 of a teaspoon of salt in a 2 tablespoon portion. Surprise, your breakfast cereal is loaded with salt. Here are 2 brand cereals we bought in the stores. This bowl contains 1/4 teaspoon of salt in it, but the good news is you have a choice. This one contains 1/100 of a teaspoon, and in my humble opinion, this one tastes better.
But the problem is you hear bran flakes, you think healthy, and you don't realize that's what you're getting.
You've got to look at the labels. Look at the labels. Here's three different chicken broths, all right? And look at the difference. 1 1/4 teaspoons of salt in this brand, 1/3 of a teaspoon in this brand, 1/10 in this brand.
Cottage cheese is healthy.
Cottage cheese is healthy, but it's got 3/5 of a teaspoon of hidden salt in that portion right there. Surprise, a cocoa drink, soft drink, 1/10 of a teaspoon. And the critical issue is right here on the label. Sodium content now by law is always shown on the label. You've got to read the labels. Now, some places don't have labels. Fast food breakfast. There is 1 teaspoon of salt in that breakfast. You can ask the folks who make the breakfast to show you their nutritional information.
One of the problems is, you said in the beginning that 30% of the people are salt sensitive, so the other 70% aren't. Why should they be so concerned with this?
Well, it may not be a problem when you're young, but if you have other risk factors for high blood pressure and heart disease, it does become a problem when you're older. Also, the excess salt causes your kidneys to lose calcium. That risks your bones, osteoporosis, and it increases your risk of kidney stones.
How much can you reduce your risk of high blood pressure by cutting out a certain amount of salt every day?
The study suggests it's only 4 or 5 points, which doesn't sound like that, but that's a significant reduction in heart attack risk if you have high blood pressure. And our volunteers, 7 of the 17 who finished 4 weeks to fitness, lowered their blood pressure 10 points or more, an average of 20 points.
Let's give people some tips then on how to lower their salt intake.
Well, the first one is obvious. Don't add salt to your food. Keep the salt shaker off your table and use spices, herbs, and tangy liquids to flavor the foods when you're cooking. Buy fresh, unprocessed foods whenever possible. Limit your use of foods that are very high in salt, like pickles, olives, soy sauce, chips, and some pretzels and nuts. And finally, read the label on every food and over-the-counter medicine you buy. You'll be astonished how much sodium is hidden in some of those products.
What about the assignments today, Art?
No, no surprise where we're starting. Today's special nutritional assignment is cut the sodium intake to no more than 2,400 milligrams a day. And don't forget to read those food labels. And don't let up on our regular core assignments. Cut your fat to 10%. Limit your cholesterol and eat lots of fruits and vegetables. Take 2 seconds off your mile. Climb 1 flight of stairs. Strengthen as many muscles as you can and spend 10 minutes doing any deep relaxation technique. You do that, and I assure you, you're on your way to better fitness. You'll feel just as good as I do.
What are you talking about tomorrow?
Tomorrow, it's flexibility, an important element of physical fitness.
And our subject today on 4 Weeks to Fitness is one that's often neglected by programs urging you to shape up. We're talking about flexibility. And here again with details is our own Dr. Art Ulene. Art, good morning.
Good morning, Matt. If you're not flexible, you're not in shape. Most fitness programs concentrate on aerobic fitness, but flexibility is just as important if you want to feel good and function well throughout your life. We're all born flexible enough to do pretzel contortions like my granddaughter, Kira. And if we exercise and stretch our muscles regularly, that same flexibility can be maintained through young adulthood and even into our 70s. But with flexibility, if you don't use it, you will lose it. Maintaining your flexibility can make a big difference in your daily life. A limber neck allows you to look backward without discomfort. Flexible shoulders allow you to screw in a light bulb overhead without fear of pain. But it's not just important to folks worried about aging. Being flexible also protects you against muscle injury when you work out at high intensity.
You have to have the right expectations, though. I mean, at 60, there's no way you're going to be as flexible as you were at 25. So what can you expect?
Well, you do lose some elasticity in your tissues naturally as a part of aging, but the overwhelming majority of flexibility that is lost is because of disuse. Muscles that aren't stretched and tendons that aren't stretched get shorter. Joints that aren't moved get stiff and painful. And pretty soon you've got a joint that you can't move because it hurts. It's a vicious cycle cycle. So you can keep the overwhelming majority of your flexibility by doing stretching exercises.
Art, I do some stretching before I work out, and there are times when it is painful, which leads me to believe you could hurt yourself doing it the wrong way. What's the right way?
Well, it leads me to believe you're doing it the wrong way. First of all, you should start with a warm-up. You shouldn't stretch muscles until you've done a little muscle warm-up, jogging in place, walking in place, a little bit on an exercise cycle. There are two parts to a stretch. One we call the easy. The first part is the easy part. And basically what you do, I'll show you a back and chest stretch. You take it back to the limit that you can push it without discomfort, absolutely no pain.
Just till
tightness. You hold it there 5 to 10 seconds, you can feel the tightness, and then you move it just slightly more. Just 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch is all it takes. If it hurts, you've moved it too far. The key is to let it relax while you're stretching.
People used to bounce. If you were doing a leg stretch, they'd kind of bounce up and down to make it stretch further. Bad idea?
Oh, bad idea. Those are ballistic stretches, and the problem is they trigger contractions in the muscle at the same time you're trying to stretch it. So number one, it's self-defeating. Number two, you can injure the muscle.
All right, so what are your tips for people as far as learning how to stretch properly?
Well, you start with warming up. Warm up first, then do all of your stretches slowly, never bounce. Stretch only to the point of tightness, never to the point of pain, and keep breathing normally. Don't hold your breath. Stretch daily if you can. Unlike strength training, there is no need for a day of rest between your stretches.
I'm feeling flexible and loose. What are today's assignments?
Well, we're going to start, of course, with stretching. In the morning, before and after strenuous exercises, when you're feeling tense at work, it's a great stretch break, and I want you to go ahead and do it as often as you can. Your next physical fitness assignment is to take 2 seconds off your mile, climb one flight, strength train, remember that strength training, and then do 10 minutes of relaxation for mental fitness. Your core assignments: cut your fat to 10%, limit your cholesterol, eat 7 fruits and vegetables. It's an important part of your fitness. You do all those things and you're well on your way to what we call real fitness, total fitness, Matt.
What are we talking about tomorrow?
Alcohol. And I'll tell you, anyone who's ever had a drink is going to want to take the quiz we've got.
As we head into the weekend, our special month-long series on fitness turns today to alcohol. 2 out of 3 American adults drink alcoholic beverages, but Dr. Art Ulene says few of them really consider the effects those beverages have on their fitness. Art, good morning.
Good morning, Matt. And let's start with the good effects, and there are some. Modest use of alcohol, and by that I mean 1 drink a day for women and up to 2 per day for men, may improve your blood cholesterol and reduce the risk of a heart attack up to 20%. That's the good news. The bad news is that heavier drinking actually lessens the cardiovascular benefit and greatly increases your risk of throat and breast cancer. Just 3 to 9 drinks per day boosts a woman's risk of developing breast cancer by 30%. Nationally, excessive drinking kills more than 100,000 people each year through accidents and alcohol-related diseases. Just 1 beer a day will add 15 pounds to your waistline. A cocktail a day will add 20, not to mention what they do to your alertness and productivity. Those are important fitness issues that need to be considered every time you reach for a drink.
It sounds like what you're saying is forget what you've heard about the possible good effects because the bad effects far outweigh this. And I also noticed that you didn't use the word alcoholism there at the end.
Well, I prefer not to use that word. I'd rather use the term problem drinking. No one wants to hear about alcoholism.
All right, if I'm to be honest then, I would say I am a social drinker. What separates me from a problem drinker?
Social drinkers drink alcoholic drinks as beverages, as foods, whereas problem drinkers use them as drugs. They use them to manage stress, tension, to overcome depression. They actually have personality changes when they drink.
What is the fine line, though? What separates the social drinker and prevents that person from becoming a problem drinker?
Well, there's no question in my mind there is a hereditary physical difference in the brain that makes the brain of a problem drinker more susceptible to the effects of alcohol. There's no question about it. Psychological, social, cultural issues enter into it. But clearly that physical genetic difference is very critical.
We've all been around friends, Art, and we've seen them get drunk. But what are the early signs before they get drunk that they may be developing a problem?
One of the first signs is an increasing tolerance to alcohol. A problem drinker can seem to drink more and more alcohol without actually appearing drunk. In fact, they need more alcohol just to get to the same effect, and they get a reputation, boy, he can really hold his liquor. The fact of the matter is that he or she is really impaired.
And how long does it take to develop tolerance like that? Is it quick?
Some people very quick, weeks or months, and other people it may take years, but it's a very reliable sign of trouble.
All right. What are the psychological symptoms, and what should we be looking for in kind of quizzing people to find out if they may be developing a drinking problem?
Well, there's no simple answer because we're all so different, but we do have a quiz, and our viewers at home could use this to determine if they or people they care about have problems. Answer the following questions, yes or no. Do you drink to escape from worry, problems, or depression? Do you drink to overcome your shyness? Do you often drink alone? Do you usually have more than one drink? Do you crave a drink at a particular time each day? Does drinking interfere with your family life or work? Have you ever hidden a supply of alcohol? And finally, this is an important one. Does being quizzed about your drinking make you angry? If you answered yes to several questions, you may have a problem with alcohol and you should think seriously about getting help. The more yes answers you had, the more important it is to seek help right now.
But one possible yes is not a sign that you are a problem drinker.
No, not at all.
This seems obvious, Art, but why do problem drinkers wait so long to get help?
It's hard for them to imagine how something that makes them feel so good, something that seems to solve their problems, can be a cause of such trouble. It's a part of denial.
Let's talk about assignments for today.
Okay, the first assignment is a mental fitness one. If you or someone you care about has a problem with alcohol, commit to get help right now. On the nutritional side, if you can drink without problems, limit your alcohol to no more than 1 drink a day if you're a woman, 2 drinks a day if you're a man. And continue doing all of our daily core assignments. Don't forget to take 2 seconds off your mile today and 2 more each day this weekend.
We should mention Monday, the show is in Washington for the inauguration, so we won't see you then, but you're back Tuesday. What's the topic then?
Fiber, where to get it and why.
All right, Art, Ulene, thanks. Have a great weekend. This morning on 4 Weeks to Fitness, our subject is not one that's always discussed in polite conversation. We're talking about fiber. Dr. Art Ulene says it is important. Art, good morning. Let's start by what is fiber?
Good morning, Matt. Fiber is the portion of plant foods that is resistant to digestive enzymes, and what that means is that most of the fiber we eat passes right through the stomach and intestines intact. There are 2 kinds of fiber, soluble and insoluble. Most foods have both kinds, but sometimes it predominates. For example, oat bran has much more soluble fiber, wheat bran has much more insoluble fiber.
You say it passes right through the body. If we don't digest or absorb it, why is it so important?
Well, although there are no nutrients, it performs an important function. Insoluble fiber acts like a sponge. It soaks up moisture. It keeps it in the intestine. That prevents constipation. It speeds food through the intestines, and that reduces your risk of colon cancer. Soluble fiber reduces your risk of heart disease because it ties up bile acids. Liver uses those to make excess cholesterol. It also, all high fiber foods are low in fat, so they reduce your risk of obesity, of hypertension, and they help people with diabetes to control their blood sugar.
We want to talk about how much fiber the average person should eat every day, and you've got some great demonstrations here as to where we can get that fiber.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, the average person in our country eats only about 12 grams. We can explain that why. Let's show the typical average American diet, 34% fat, only 10 grams of fiber. Let's show you the diet we recommend, a 10% fat diet, 25 grams, and that's what the National Research Council recommends that we should eat. And the answer to your question is 2 words, plant foods. The more you eat, the better. We're talking vegetables, fruits, legumes, cereals, and grains. And the message on this table is very simple. And you got to choose your foods carefully. Every portion you see on this table contains 10 grams of fiber. So there are 10 grams of fiber in this cereal and 10 grams of fiber in this brand
This is like
cereal.
that commercial that says you could eat all this or you could eat a little of ours.
You could eat a little of this. Whole grain foods much better than processed. 10 grams of fiber, 10 grams of fiber. Beans are a superb source of food. Now this shows you've got to eat an awful lot of lettuce or cabbage, 2.5 portions to meet your quota. So variety, eat fiber at every single meal. Skin is important. These 2.5 apples with the skin on have as much fiber as 4 apples with the skin off. And finally, whole fruits and whole foods contain much more fiber than their juices. Take 20 glasses of orange juice to equal the fiber in 3 oranges.
If I'm only getting 10 grams of fiber a day and I start eating what you recommend, isn't my body going to kind of go a little bit crazy for a while?
Well, if you go too fast and too high, there are 2 symptoms you need to be concerned about. One is flatus, and the other is constipation and cramping. Flatus, by the way, is a medical
gas.
term for gas.
Right.
And the solution to this is to go gradually but get up there. I also want to remind people when you increase fiber, you need to increase your fluid. 8 glasses a day of water or its equivalent.
All right, let's talk about some assignments for today. They're important.
They sure are, and we're, of course, going to start with a nutritional assignment. First assignment, eat 25 grams of fiber and be sure to drink plenty of water. Don't forget to continue with all of our core assignments. Cut your fat, limit your cholesterol, eat plenty of fruits and vegetables. Speed up your mile, climb 1 flight of stairs, stretch and strengthen as many muscles as you can, and spend 10 minutes with any deep relaxation technique. You'll be feeling great soon.
Tomorrow you're talking about what?
An unusual fitness subject, anger, and it's important.
Okay, Dr. Art Ulene, we appreciate it. Today's 4 Weeks to Fitness subject is one you won't find covered in many fitness programs. It's anger. And once again, here's Dr. Art Ulene. Art, good morning.
Good morning, Matt.
What exactly does anger have to do with fitness?
Everything, Matt. Anger causes a tremendous physical reaction in your body, too. It makes your heart race, your blood pressure goes up, your muscles tense, your adrenal glands pour out hormones, and your risk of a heart attack goes up if you're constantly angry. Your risk of other health problems goes up, so you can't allow anger to just continue.
So your simple advice is don't get angry, but you've heard the expression, stuff happens.
Yeah, well, no, my advice would not be to not get angry, because you can't help it. Anger is a natural response. It's the way you deal with anger. And speaking of stuff, what some people try to do is stuff their anger. They try to pretend they're not angry. That never works. It just simmers below the surface. Other people rage. They escalate their anger. They shout, they scream, they swear. This doesn't work either. It leaves them feeling upset, constantly stressed, and it makes them subject to illness.
I am one of the people you talked about. I tend to suppress the anger. I keep it inside, unless Katie makes me really mad. But how should I deal with my anger?
Well, the first thing you've got to do is ask, is my anger just? Anger is just when it's in response to an intentional hurt. Someone lies to you, someone betrays you. It's not just when it happens unintentionally. They cancel the flight because of bad weather. Don't get angry at the people around you. And when you react over unjust anger, you're just going to leave yourself feeling stressed and sick afterward. It doesn't work.
All right, let's say that I've determined that my anger is just. What do I do next?
Well, you got to ask yourself, is it useful? Is it helping me? Or is it hurting me? And if your anger is causing you to rage out of control, or it's making you feel sick over something you can't change, you got to give it up.
So you give it up, meaning pretend you're not angry? You said earlier,
No.
Don't pretend, so that sounds like a contradiction.
There is a big difference between pretending you're not angry and making the conscious decision to let go of your anger, to say to yourself, hey, you know, I'm really mad at you, but I am not going to let this get me sick, and just give it up.
One of the problems is that when people get angry, and they get really angry, logical thought is not easy. They get so angry that they just can't think straight. What should they do then?
Well, what you've got to do is try to control it. Anger feeds on itself. It tends to escalate. We've got a few hints here that we can give you. The first thing you've got to try to do is calm down. Take a few slow, deep breaths. Count to 10. And by the way, count to 1,000 if you have to calm yourself down. Use what we call anger management statements. These are pre-planned statements. You've got them ready ahead of time. I will not lose my cool. I will not lose my cool. And you keep saying it until you're back in control. And finally, if that doesn't work, take a time out. And by that, I mean just get yourself away from the situation, but not for an unlimited period of time. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, come back to the situation. You can't just pretend it didn't happen.
What about the people, and we've all met these people, who seem to walk around angry all the time? What should they do?
Well, I recommend they keep an anger diary. You've got to find out what's making you angry. So I keep a record, look what's happening, what's going on, what's triggering your anger, is it just? And develop new responses for dealing with that. If you allow these angry feelings to go on all the time, you dramatically increase your risk of illness.
And what about the people who tend to get angry or stay angry today about something that happened 2 years ago? I mean, there are people who really let these things simmer.
This is very common. We call this past anger, and you've got to get rid of past anger. You've either got to go back to the source of your anger and try to make peace with that person. And by the way, you shouldn't do that if all you're doing is going back to press the argument. And you ought to be aware there's a risk that the other person may not want to make peace with you, so be prepared for that possibility. And if you feel you can't do that, or if you can't make peace with that person, then again, give it up. Let go. You really can do it. Make the conscious decision. Don't pretend you weren't angry, but give it up.
You talked about counting to 1,000, really determining whether it's just anger. You also said there's a book out that you can actually just read, and it gives you helpful hints when you are angry.
I've got a wonderful book that I want to recommend to our audience. It's called Dr. Weisinger's Anger Workout book. Many of the thoughts that I expressed today are based on this book. By the way, there must be a lot of anger out there because 2 of the 3 bookstores I visited yesterday were sold out.
All right, let's talk about today's assignments.
Well, we're going to start with a mental fitness assignment. Your first assignment, write down every time you get angry today and what triggers it. Ask yourself, is it justifiable or not? Did you handle it well? Look for a pattern and find new, more constructive ways of dealing with those daily annoyances in your life. I want you to continue with your core assignments. Cut your fat and cholesterol, eat more fruits and vegetables, do those physical assignments, speed your mile, climb a flight, stretch and strength, and 10 minutes of relaxation. You'll feel great.
Count to 1,000. What's my assignment or my topic for tomorrow?
Altruism, how to put altruism into your fitness program.
Art, thanks very much. Today's subject on 4 Weeks to Fitness is altruism and your social connectedness. If that sounds totally unrelated to fitness, you should hear what Dr. Art Ulene has to say about charity work and friends and how they're actually good for your health. Art, good to see you.
Thank you, Matt. It sounds strange, but it's true. Studies show that people who are socially isolated have a higher risk of heart disease, cancer, and death than people who maintain good social connections. And there's considerable evidence that doing good deeds can actually improve your health and increase your life expectancy. But it makes you feel good in other ways, too, as one of our volunteers explains. Kiku Tamita loves living amid the noises and bustle of New York City.
I've lived in various parts of the country, and once I hit New York, I said, boy, this is my city where there's so much going on, where there's so much culture and different things to do.
Several times a week, Kiku volunteers to guide elder hostel groups around New York City.
Oh, really?
This group joined Kiku for a tour of the Metropolitan Museum.
Well, you meet people from all over. This is such an international city.
Kiku truly enjoys sharing her love of New York, and the tour groups love her.
You're my geographical expert here. It's a completely different thing from working. See, when you're working at any job, you can't help but think, gee, I put in 12 hours today. Now, I'm only getting this much money.
Yeah, we can
I'm just here to share what I can. So if I'm here early morning till at night, if I don't enjoy it, I'll just say, well, I've had enough. But I love sharing things about New York with people, and they really enjoy it.
And for 30 years now, Kiku has also volunteered her time to take homeless children to the circus.
You have to do it because you enjoy it, not from a sense of being a do-gooder. Because that's kind of a turn-off when somebody comes and says, "Now I'm Lady Bountiful."
The joy Kiku feels is well known to any of us who work for charity. It's been dubbed Helper's High, and research shows it not only feels good, it is good for you. That's why it's an important part of our fitness program.
Let me play the skeptic on this one, okay? I have no doubt that Kiku and other volunteers feel good about themselves when they do charity work. But how do you make the connection? Isn't it a large leap to say that changes your body enough to affect cancer rates and heart disease rates?
Well, there's actually some research that shows it changes the way your immune system functions. That may be one of the reasons why it works this way. It's also possible that people who take care of others take better care of themselves. Whatever the mechanism, it clearly works. There was a University of Michigan study. They followed 2,700 people for 10 years. And what they found is that the men who did not volunteer at all were twice as likely to die during the study period as men who volunteered once a week.
All right, put it to the test. So let's say I sit in my house. I'm isolated from people. I don't make a lot of connections with friends. But once a week I write a nice big check to a charity. Is that going to give me the health benefit?
It'll make you feel good, but my guess is it won't have the same health benefits. Social isolation really hurts your health. Studies show that people who are socially isolated have higher heart attack rates, higher cancer rates, higher mortality rates. One very interesting study at Stanford University which shows the power of social support. They took women with breast cancer. The women who participated in support groups lived 18 months longer than a comparable group of women who did not.
So if the social connection art is what's important there, how do you suggest people go about developing meaningful social connections?
Well, Reconnect with family, reconnect with friends, join religious groups, hobby groups. Get out there with people, and again, one of the best ways to do it is to volunteer.
And what are today's assignments?
Well, we'll start with a mental fitness assignment. Your mental assignment today is to renew or increase a charitable commitment, but be sure it's a promise that won't overload you stress-wise. And call a family member or old friend from whom you've been disconnected. It'll make you both feel good. Don't forget to keep up with your daily core assignments, cut the fat and cholesterol, eat lots of fruits and vegetables, speed up your mile, climb, stretch, and strengthen, and then spend 10 minutes relaxing. You should already start to feel better now.
We're going to wrap up week 3 of 4 Weeks to Fitness tomorrow. Art, what's the subject?
Relationship fitness, important part of health.
I'll let Katie do that one. Art, thanks very much. On our special series, 4 Weeks to Fitness, how the quality of your most intimate relationship affects your fitness. We're going to let Dr. Art Ulene tell us how that can happen. Art, good morning. How you doing?
Good morning, Matt. Relationships are important if you look at fitness in the total sense. You can't feel well if you have constant conflict in your relationships. No matter how physically fit you are, that constant conflict increases your risk of high blood pressure, of headaches, even of heart disease. That's why part of our program involves getting your relationships fit.
Most people that go through life thinking, my relationship is either bad or good. How do you have them actually judge? What criteria do you use?
Well, many people measure the quality of their relationships by the amount of conflict they have. You know, we never fight, so our relationship must be fine. But the fact of the matter is some people are so distant from each other that things aren't worth arguing about. Some people measure it by the amount of contact. We're always together. But the fact is some people are constantly together physically and emotionally very distant from each other. The real measure should be what I call connection. Connected partners are able to express their innermost feelings, their insecurities, their fears, their inadequacies with each other, knowing that that information will never be used against them.
So if the answer is not just simply spending more time together, how do you go about improving that, what you call the connection?
Well, the answer is talking and listening. Now, most people think they do that already, but the fact of the matter is what they do is they spend all their time criticizing and defending. You know, you tell me what I do wrong, and I try to rebut you and defend myself, and then we switch, you know, and I criticize you and you defend yourself. That never gets us anywhere.
So how do you change it?
Well, you change it by getting off what we do and talking about how it makes me feel. I get to when you do this, it makes me feel unloved. It makes me feel unwanted. I need to let you know how your actions affect me deep inside. Not that it makes me angry, but what it makes me feel about myself.
But if I look at you and I say, you make me feel, well, it's a bad example. If I look at my partner and say, you make me feel unloved, how do you know that's not going to lead you right into one of the arguments you'd normally have about that subject?
Well, what it does is it draws your partner to you. If your partner really cares about you, it draws you in. Let me give you an example. You come home for dinner an hour late, you don't call. You know, a typical response is, well, welcome home, thanks for calling. That's a fight in the making. No chance about it. Instead of saying, you know, Matt, when you come home this late without calling me, it makes me feel as though you don't care about me. It makes me feel like there's something wrong with me. You've got to draw in and try to support me instead of attacking me when I approach it that way.
All right, but the problem is, and this is a little bit like we talked about with anger the other day with you, when you do get upset, when your spouse or your partner does come home late, it makes you angry. It's not easy to put things in such or logical terms.
Well, what you have to do is you have to practice how to diffuse that anger, how to control things. And this is why I recommend that couples literally practice these kinds of relaxation techniques and communications techniques. You can't let anger take you out of control.
And what happens if you do the practicing, but your partner continues to get angry? Do you just stop? Do you try another method?
Take a time out. Don't forget it. Don't pretend you're not angry, but take a few minutes away from the situation and agree to come back to the problem with a better approach.
Let's talk about today's assignments.
Well, today, by the way, we want to talk about the practice session. These things feel unnatural, so you've got to practice. I recommend that you schedule a 10-minute talk session during which each partner talks for 5 minutes while the other partner listens. Then you change places. Talk about a specific issue that has created problems in the past, but don't try to solve the problem. While you're the talker, talk about yourself and how the current situation makes you feel about yourself. Don't slip into criticizing your partner. And don't make demands or expect anything of the partner who listens. Now, when you're finished talking, then ask your partner, what did you hear me say? When it's your turn to listen, try to hear everything from the talker's point of view. Even if you don't agree with what is said, try to imagine how you would feel if you saw things that way too. You'd be astonished how fast your relationship can improve when you talk and listen to each other this way.
And we're going to now go on with our other assignments to make sure people keep up with those as well.
Right, and our first assignment is a mental fitness one. Try the relationship exercise I just explained. If your spouse won't do it, try it with a close friend. Those friendships are important relationships too. And don't forget your core assignments. Cut 2 seconds off your mile. Today and every day this weekend, climb, stretch, and strengthen, and spend 10 minutes relaxing. Cut your fat and cholesterol, and be sure to eat plenty of fruits and vegetables. You'll be feeling fit by Monday.
Well, speaking of Monday, what's our topic Monday?
On Monday, we're going to talk about priorities, lifetime priorities, very important in a fitness program.
And do me a favor, call me more often. It makes me feel neglected when you don't. As we begin the 4th week of our 4 Weeks to Fitness, we want to set some priorities. Our question is this: if you only had 6 months to live, would you spend it exactly the way you've spent the last 6 months? Would you work as hard, spend the same time with your family and friends, or would you change some things? Dr. Art Ulene has some interesting thoughts on priorities. Art, good morning.
It's an important issue, Matt. I don't know anyone who on his or her deathbed said, I wish I had worked more. Setting priorities and living your life by them is an essential step in your fitness program. People who set inappropriate priorities, especially those who spend all of their energy at work, often end up feeling stressed and anxious or depressed. Poorly chosen priorities are the most common cause of personal fitness neglect. People tell me they're too busy with more important things. Well, I just don't buy that excuse, and neither did 2 of our volunteers. Remember busy attorney Renee Rosenfeld?
I want to remove weight as a major issue in my life.
When Renee made fitness a top priority, she took off 11 pounds and cut 3 minutes from her mile in just 4 weeks. But then Renee and her husband Adam bought a house in the suburbs. The move came at the same time Renee started her first job as a licensed New York state attorney. She still walks her mile with Adam and their dog, but the view's a bit different from when they lived near Central Park. And there's added pressure on workday mornings as they race to catch the 7:10 train to the city. Renee now spends more than 2 hours a day commuting, but even that hasn't derailed her fitness plan. She eats her low-fat breakfast at her desk and walks evenings in their new neighborhood. Adam is still very supportive.
He's doing it to be with me and to support me, and it feels great.
Why you ran, Junior? Look guilty when you run like that.
Antoinette Douglas faces a different kind of pressure in her life.
How is your PO?
Parole.
Parole.
She's a state parole officer. Before dawn, Antoinette is on the streets of New York with her partner, Jose Pabon, making home visits to confirm that her parolees really live where they say they do.
You learn that there's nothing routine about what you're doing, but you go out there and, you're on your P's and Q's,
On other days, she heads downtown. Each of her parolees must report in at this building every week. Antoinette uses lunch hours to run. She got that minute off her mile. Not an easy task at her speed. She covers the mile now in less than 7.5 minutes. If Antoinette is uptown, she runs in the park. Downtown, she heads across the Brooklyn Bridge.
I get the runner's high, and especially after a long run and on a cold day. And when you're done, it's almost as good as chocolate.
Both Antoinette Douglas and Renee Rosenfeld have made great fitness progress despite their busy schedules, and they've also agreed to make some time for us this morning. Ladies, nice to see you.
Hello.
Antoinette, you do have a busy schedule as a parole officer, yet you find time to run and go to a gym. Where do you make the time?
Well, you just find it. I mean, it's there. You just set different priorities. You just have to really make the time. You make the effort to have the time.
Why did it take this program to get you to change those priorities, though?
Oh, because, I don't know, I was just kind of working out, running around in a circle, not really making any accomplishments. And the program gave me structure, which is what I felt I needed. So that made it a little bit easier.
Renee, you've had a rather stressful last few months. Let me just explain for people. You passed the New York bar exam.
Right.
You bought a house. You changed jobs, and you moved for the second time.
Right.
Yet you also managed to lose 20 pounds. How did you find time to do it?
I realized that I don't have time not to do it. And I think that's the main thing. I used to spend so much time worrying about what I was going to have to do, that I was gaining weight, I wasn't healthy. I mean, I did this through law school. And I think I finally realized this is what's making me live through all those changes with some sanity and actually feel good about myself again. So to me, the amount of time that I spend now is much less than the time that I used to spend stressed out.
Antoinette, what about the people who are watching right now and they're saying, I'm pleased for those two. That's great. But you know what? Maybe they hate you a little bit because they don't think they can do it and they come up with excuses. How do you tell them to get past the excuses?
Oh, one of the things that I do, for an example, I always carry my gym bag to work. So once you get home, it's kind of easy not to go out again, you know. So have the gym bag, driving in or driving from work, instead of listening to Light FM, I'll listen to KTU, something that will pump you up. Yeah, keep you energized and make you want to do something.
What about when you go to the supermarket, Renee? It's very easy to buy the donuts and the ice cream. What rules have you set for yourself to stop that?
Well, one thing, I just don't go to the supermarket when I'm hungry. That's a main thing for me. And the other thing is, it's just not a major event anymore. I go to the supermarket to shop, and you can take a list or whatever. But one thing I would say is that if I can do it, I'm not athletic like Antoinette is, but if I can do it, I think anyone can.
As we get to assignments, Art, I just want to mention that you and Antoinette run every once in a while together, and she beats you badly, doesn't she?
Ran me right into the ground.
What are the assignments for people?
Well, we're going to start with priorities. That's where it all begins. Review your priorities and be sure that your 1 mile walk or jog is in there today. We're speeding up things a little bit. Take 3 seconds off your timed mile now and continue your other core assignments. Climb, stretch, strengthen, relax, cut fat and cholesterol, and eat those fruits and vegetables. You'll improve your fitness too.
All right, Art. Today's subject on 4 Weeks to Fitness is getting a good night's sleep. If you get up every day exhausted, you're not alone. 1 in 3 Americans has trouble sleeping. However, Dr. Art Ulene says he can show you how to sleep like a baby. Art, good morning.
Good morning, Matt. Sleep is the finishing touch to your daytime fitness activities. Your body needs that sleep to replenish itself. And it's not just how much sleep you get, but what kind of sleep. A good night's sleep consists of repeated 90-minute cycles during which we go from light sleep, known as stages 1 and 2, to deep sleep, stages 3 and 4, that's the purple valleys on the left, and back again. To wake up feeling rested, you've got to spend enough time in those deep stages 3 and 4. There's also a stage called REM sleep that's shown in blue, the blue peaks on the right on our graphic. During REM sleep, your brain is very active, your eyes dart rapidly beneath your closed eyelid, and this is when dreams occur. That pattern, all of those stages are necessary for refreshing sleep.
Let's talk about the stages. How many of those patterns do you need to make up one good night's sleep?
Probably about 4 or 5. If you put people in a dark cave, let them sleep as long as they want, they'll sleep 8 hours or more. Studies show that people who sleep 7 or 8 hours actually live longer than people who sleep 6 or less.
When you wake up, Art, how do you know if you've had a good night's sleep? What are the signs?
You don't need an alarm clock. You wake up feeling refreshed and looking forward to the day. Simple as that.
All right, let's talk about some of the reasons that people are not getting a good night's sleep.
Well, there are a lot of different reasons. Sleeping disorders are some of them. Restless legs, sleep apnea. Anybody who has really serious chronic sleeping problems should see a center that specializes in these problems. Medical disorders are another problem. The pain of arthritis, difficulty breathing from emphysema or asthma, overstimulation, caffeine, nicotine, exercising too vigorously before you go to bed. And of course, there are psychological problems that keep a lot of people awake. Anxiety keeps them from going to sleep. Depression causes them to wake up early.
Also a bad idea to eat a big full meal right before you lay down to go to sleep.
That will keep a lot of people awake. Stay away from spicy foods too.
My biggest problem is I get in bed and my mind begins to race. I have stressful thoughts. How do I eliminate those?
Well, you can't stop them. It's impossible to stop them. What you have to do is turn your mind elsewhere. I use a technique called backward counting. I start at 1,000, I make a picture of a digital counter in my eye, and I just move it back 1. And I literally focus all your energy on that. I usually am asleep in 30 to 40 numbers. I have never gotten below 628.
But that's your version of counting sheep, basically.
That's correct. Repetitive action and concentrated focus.
A lot of people you hear, and this is a little disturbing, say, you know what, if I have a drink or two, before I go to bed. The alcohol puts me to sleep.
Big mistake. Gets you to sleep, but it's broken sleep. You don't get down to the deeper stages. You don't wake up feeling refreshed.
You have some hints for people, and we have a graphic here. Hints on actually trying to get the best night's sleep possible.
Yes, we really can get you to sleep. First of all, don't get into bed unless you're tired, and if you're not asleep in 20 minutes, get out of bed. The bed is just
Get
for
out of bed
sleeping.
and do what, though? Just go read somewhere?
Go read, do a quiet activity, but your bed should be used only for sleeping and sex. Get up the same time each morning. Try to establish a regular routine. Keep your bedroom dark and quiet. Don't eat real late. Don't eat a heavy meal. Stay away from spicy foods. And finally, don't nap, because your body needs that natural fatigue to get it to sleep at night.
Just snuck in the sleeping and sex thing, I want you to know. We did hear it, though, okay? What about sleeping pills? Do they help? I mean, obviously, they'll put you to sleep.
In short-term situations, you got anxiety, a death in the family, a crisis, maybe, but never for more than 7 days. They don't produce natural sleep. They cause rebounds afterward.
Quickly, we've heard a lot about melatonin. How's that?
May work for older people. We don't have safety data on it. No proof that it works in younger people. I'd be cautious about it.
Okay, let's talk about today's assignments.
Well, of course, we're going to start with a good night's sleep. Your first assignment, get at least 7 hours sleep tonight, preferably 8, but don't skimp on your other assignments. Take 3 seconds off your timed mile. Climb, stretch, and strengthen. Relax 10 minutes. Cut the fat and cholesterol. Eat those fruits and vegetables. I promise you, you'll be feeling better tomorrow.
A good idea might be to relax those 10 minutes right before you get into bed.
Perfect time.
Sleep. What are we talking about tomorrow?
Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about... What are we talking about tomorrow?
It's a good question.
We're going to be talking about immune fitness.
Okay, great.
I need more sleep.
Tomorrow, get 7 or 8 hours.
I promise.
Sleep, all right? Art, thanks very much. Up until now in our 4 Weeks to Fitness series, we've been talking about physical, nutritional, and mental fitness. Today our subject is immune fitness. Dr. Art Ulene is here to explain why that's important, most importantly, how to achieve it. Art, good morning.
Good morning, Matt. Immune fitness means that your body is well prepared to resist infectious diseases. It does that by making antibodies against the viruses and bacteria that cause these diseases. Now, you build immune fitness generally through good nutrition, good stress management, physical conditioning, sleep, all the things we've been talking about during our series. But your best specific protection against particular infectious diseases is through immunizations. That prepares the body to react much, much more rapidly.
In terms of adults, though, what immunizations do we have to worry about?
Well, most people assume that all they needed were their childhood immunizations. The fact of the matter is there's a whole series that you need as adults to boost those immunizations. Let's start with the immunizations that you were routinely given during childhood. Adults should receive a booster shot of tetanus and diphtheria toxoid at least once every 10 years. Everyone born after 1956 should have 2 shots for measles, mumps, and rubella, or German measles. Women who have not had German measles and who have not been immunized against it should be immunized now, but only if they agree not to become pregnant for 3 months. And if you've not had chickenpox or shingles, you should talk to your doctor about varicella vaccine to see if it's appropriate for you.
You mentioned the measles vaccine, but only for people who were born after 1956. Why?
Well, that's because the immunization was developed in 57. Prior to that time, everyone got measles, and they developed lifelong natural immunity. By the way, you need 2 shots for measles now. If you've only had 1, it's time to get back.
I don't have the best memory in the world. What if I'm not sure that I ever had the shot or that I ever had measles?
Well, one thing you can try to do is find your old medical records. That can be difficult when you get to our age. Another good source is your baby book. Most parents kept very accurate records of children's immunizations.
In addition to the childhood shots, what else do we need to worry about?
Well, there are several adult immunizations. We're going to start with the pneumococcal vaccine. All men and women 65 years of age and over should be vaccinated at least once in their life against pneumonia. Some under 65 should also be immunized because they have a high risk of complications. These include people with chronic medical problems like heart, lung, or kidney disease and diabetes, people with a weakened immune system, and people who are institutionalized after the age of 50. Influenza flu vaccine should be given annually to all people 65 years or older. Under 65, flu shots should be given to people with chronic medical conditions or weakened immunity, also to health professionals who care for any high-risk patients. Hepatitis A immunizations are recommended for staff at daycare centers and custodial institutions, for military personnel, for hospital and lab workers, homosexual men, and people who travel to areas where hepatitis A infections are common. And hepatitis B vaccine is recommended for all youngsters and for adults of any age who are at high risk risk for infection. That includes homosexual men, people with multiple sex partners, hemodialysis patients, healthcare professionals exposed to blood or blood products, and travelers to countries where hepatitis B is prevalent.
Let's stop on the last one there. You mentioned travelers. Where can you get the information? Where should you check to see if you are going to someplace rather exotic, what shots you might need?
The CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, has a superb hotline. You can call that number, 404-332-4559. They've got recorded information and an excellent fax-back service for every area in the world.
Let's tell people about their assignments for today.
All right, well, we'll start with immune fitness. Your first assignment is to review your immunization status with your physician to decide if you need any boosters, and continue your core fitness assignments. Cut 3 seconds off your mile, climb, stretch, and strengthen. Spend 10 minutes relaxing. Cut the fat and cholesterol and eat those fruits and vegetables. I promise you, you do all those things, you'll feel different immediately.
We'll see you again tomorrow. What do you talk about then?
I took no chances.
Yeah, yesterday we drew a little bit of a blank.
How to measure your medical fitness.
All right, Art, thanks very much. As we near the end of our 4 Weeks to Fitness program, we turn to medical fitness and which screening test you should use to measure yours. With that information, once again, here's Dr. Art Ulene.
Good morning, Matt. No matter how much we exercise, how well we eat, how much we control our stress, we're still all at risk for serious medical problems. And what screening tests do is pick up those problems long before symptoms appear, while the problems are still easily treatable and while many of the complications can be prevented. And that's why screening tests are so important in our program.
It sounds like common sense. They're good for you, yet you hear an awful lot of controversy about these things, Art. Why?
Well, because no screening tests are perfect. They all cause problems themselves, ranging all the way from minor painful bruises at a needle stick site to increased risk of cancer with excessive radiation. Their accuracy is a problem too. They're not 100% accurate, so sometimes you'll get a screening test that misses a problem that really is there, leading to false assurance and delay. Sometimes you'll get a screening test that diagnoses a problem that doesn't exist, leading to unnecessary biopsies and complicated tests. Another problem is that some screening tests don't change the outcome. Why get them? The best example is chest x-rays. By the time a lung cancer is large enough to be seen on a chest x-ray, it's not any more curable than if you wait for symptoms. So why radiate an entire population when it doesn't do any good?
It seems that information on these tests comes out and then more information comes out that contradicts the first one. So given that and the confusion surrounding it, how do we decide which ones I should have and shouldn't have?
Well, your physician should be giving you information about the risks and benefits, why you should have every particular test. There are also good guidelines available from reputable organizations, Cancer Society, American Academy of Family Physicians, American College of Physicians. You should ask your doctor to give you this information, call the organizations, look up on the internet their home pages, and remember that sometimes in your particular case, the guidelines may not be appropriate because you have increased risks, but your doctor should justify it in that case why you should be having those tests.
Before we get to the people who have the increased risk, those special groups, let's talk about the tests that everybody should have.
Good, and there are some. Let's start with blood pressure. Blood pressure should be measured every 2 years, more often if the pressure is elevated. Total blood cholesterol and HDL cholesterol levels should be measured every 5 years, more often if the total cholesterol level is high or if your HDL level is abnormally low. Women should get annual pap smears beginning at age 18 or when they become sexually active, whichever comes first. After 3 years of normal smears, they can be taken less frequently if the woman is at low risk for cervical cancer, but I want to remind you, a complete pelvic exam should still be done annually. Now, there's been recent controversy over mammograms, but there is no debate that all women should have mammograms annually after the age of 50. In my opinion, it's reasonable to get mammograms every 2 years between the ages of 40 and 50, even annually in women who are at high risk for breast cancer. Mammograms are appropriate. This is very important at any age in a woman who has a breast lump. Now, for men, digital rectal exam should be included in every physical exam, should be combined with a PSA blood test for prostate cancer after the age of 50 in white men, after the age of 40 in African Americans. After 50, both men and women should have a yearly fecal occult blood test, and sigmoidoscopy or colonoscopy should be done every 5 years. may be appropriate to start that earlier in people who have an increased risk of colon cancer. Glaucoma screening is appropriate for Caucasians age 65 and older and for African Americans over 40.
Well, let's go back briefly now to the high-risk groups, people we talked about a second. Which test do you recommend for which groups?
People at high risk for diabetes should have regular blood sugar screening. Women at high risk for osteoporosis should have bone density screening around the age of menopause. And people at high risk for heart attacks, electrocardiograms might be appropriate after the age of 40.
Some of these screening tests can be expensive. You go to the doctor, these things add up. What about self-exams? How important are they? How useful are they?
I think they're very, very important. Women should be doing breast self-exam every month. Men should be doing testicular self-exam every month, especially between the ages of 20 and 40 when it's most common. And I believe people should do total body skin examination every 3 months in a mirror, full body exam. Many people have saved their lives, their own lives, with these 3 simple procedures.
Let's talk about today's assignments.
Well, we're going to start with screening, of course. You should review your own screening guidelines with your physician. And don't skimp when doing the rest of our core assignments. Cut your fat and cholesterol, eat plenty of fruits and vegetables, cut 3 seconds off your mile, climb, stretch, strengthen, and of course, relax. You do all of those things, you really are on your way to better fitness, to a better life.
This has been an amazingly informative series. We end it tomorrow, and what will you talk about?
We're going to talk about the next 4 weeks and the rest of your life. Our program may be ending, but everyone's fitness program at home must go on.
So you're going to keep calling me and hounding me, that sort of thing?
Gently, man.
All right, that's nice of you. Today, as we wrap up our special series, 4 Weeks to Fitness, Dr. Art Ulene wants to talk about what lies ahead in the next 28 days. Art, good morning.
Good morning, Matt, and the rest of your life. Each day for the last 4 weeks, I've tried to show you a different element of fitness and give you ways to incorporate new fitness activities into your life. I've asked you to make very small changes in several different areas, and I've promised significant health benefits if you made those changes consistently. Here are some examples of what you can accomplish, taken from the volunteers who tested the program for us. Do you remember Mark Troy? This 54-year-old executive got his cholesterol down 23%, his blood pressure down 20 points. He took 2 minutes off his mile and 3/4 of an inch off his waist. After the first 28 days, Mark and his wife Ulene joined a health club so they can continue to exercise and have fun together. Romelia Hamburger brought her cholesterol down 22%. She says she's lost 4 more pounds working on her own during January. That's a total of 8 pounds in 2 months. She's now using a cross-country ski machine to vary her workout. Renee Rosenfeld lost a total of 20 pounds. She lowered her cholesterol 15%. And by the way, she lost 9 of those pounds working the fitness program on her own during the second 4 weeks. And Antoinette Douglas, our star female runner, cut her mile to 7:22. That's down a minute. She lowered her blood pressure 26 points and lost 9 pounds. She took off all of that weight on her own after our 4-week test of the fitness program ended. The changes our volunteers made have reduced their risk of coronary heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and cancer. Those changes have also given them new energy and a greater sense of control over their lives. The fitness program those volunteers used is identical to the one we've presented to you this month, the same subjects introduced on the same day-by-day basis. As you saw for yourself, our volunteers continued their fitness activities beyond the 4 weeks of our program, and that's what I'm asking you to do too today. Keep doing your fitness activities. Remember that maintaining fitness is a lifetime proposition. Our 4-week program was just the start.
You talk about the changes, except for the one that was cutting fat in our diet. They were very small changes. How did these people, your volunteers, get such great results?
Well, because putting multiple changes together had a synergistic effect. When you change just one aspect of your life, you try to lose weight, it accomplishes only a minor area. Take blood pressure. 9 of our volunteers dropped their blood pressure 10 points or more. Cutting salt, no question, made a difference. But so did exercising each day. So did losing the weight. So did the relaxation techniques. When you put those things together, 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 = 7.
You've talked about some varied subjects, from salt to anger to strength training. If you had to pick one, which is most important, which would it be?
I'd have to pick 3 key issues. First is consistency. The second is consistency. And the third is consistency. I'd much rather see people go halfway with our recommendations but be consistent in their application over a lifetime. Healthiest people I know are the ones who maintain their activities consistently.
As I mentioned, throughout the last 20 days or 28 days, you told people cut their fat intake to 10%. You yourself admitted that's dramatic.
Yep.
From now on, what should they cut it to?
Well, I'd like them to keep it as low as possible, but I'd be willing to compromise on 20%. Most experts recommend 30%. That's better than the average American diet, but I prefer the lowest possible.
As I mentioned, you're wrapping up today. What assignments will you leave us with?
Well, our first assignment is to create your own personal fitness structure. Plan your own assignments for the next 4 weeks and write them down on a calendar or in a diary so it's clear what you plan to do. Set realistic goals for your next 4 weeks. Our goals for the first 4 weeks were to take an inch off your waist, a minute off your mile, 10 points off your blood pressure, and 10% off your cholesterol. Well, you're not going to be able to repeat that in the second 4 weeks, but modest improvements are possible. Build a support system. Get your spouse or a friend involved. It'll be good for them and it will increase your chance of success. And finally, have fun along the way. Don't take yourself or any aspect of our program so seriously that it stops being fun. I wish you good luck during the next 4 weeks and good health always.
I want to thank you for spending the last month with us, and I'm sure a lot of viewers want to thank you as well. Art,
thank you, man.
Thanks very much.
It's been fun. Whether you have reached your ultimate fitness goal or you still have more to do, you now have all of the tools you need to accomplish your goal. In the past 28 days, you've learned how significantly you can change your overall fitness level, indeed your life, if you are willing to make small changes on a continuous basis. Now it's time to decide what you will do with what you have learned during the next 28 days. While you've come to the end of our program, your fitness program must continue. I urge you to make a lifetime commitment to the pursuit of personal health and well-being. And don't forget to have fun along the way. I wish you good health always.